After 4 months and more than 3,000 kilometers with this Kia Carnival Hybrid, I reckon I could do this review in like 20 seconds. Here, look, I'll show you. This is a Kia Carnival Hybrid. It has 8 seats and a proper third row. It's more practical and spacious than an SUV, and I think it drives better than most SUVs as well. It's got airbags which go all the way back to cover the third row as well. You don't get that in a lot of SUVs. There is a downside though. It's a people mover and it's a bit pricey. And that's the review. So what do we do now? Look, there are more downsides, but a lot more upsides. So if you want to see what I mean, hang around and watch this video, or you can go to carsguide.com.au and read the full review. Ready? Let's go.
What you're looking at here is actually a Kia Carnival Hybrid in the fetal position. It's been traumatized after 4 harrowing months with my family. But don't worry, it's almost over. You're going to go back to Kia very soon. I like the way the Carnival looks. I like that it has a tough little truck-like nose. It not only looks tough, but it feels good to have something between you and the car in front. I like the front LED daytime running lights too, and how they make its face look even broader. And I like the profile, and I like the back of it with these tail lights. I really like how it looks, and I didn't once feel an ounce of embarrassment pulling up in the school pickup line over the past 4 months. In the queue of very samey SUVs, the Carnival stood out as the better choice, I thought. This is the GT line, the highest grade in the Carnival lineup, and that means it gets these 19-inch brushed gunmetal alloys, while inside there's a premium looking interior with some pretty fancy features in this cavernous space. So how much does all this cost?
Let's talk price. Now, you can only get the hybrid variant in the top of the range GT line, and that makes it quite pricey. Now, rumor has it that Kia's trying to get the hybrid in the lower grades, but for now, you can only get it in this GT line grade. But still, you get some really good standard features. Let me show you.
Let me tell you about the features which have been absolute gold over the past 4 months. First, the proximity unlocking and power sliding doors. Not having to open it physically means my 9-year-old son could do it totally by himself. Next, the sunshades on those doors. They're vital in Australia, which feels like it's only about 150 metres from the sun in summer. The climate control worked like a total beast to keep us comfortable in the cooler months, and the hot spring we had too. There's air vents in all 3 rows and even controls in the 2nd row. Hat tip to the wireless charger and the head-up display, and thank you to the heated and cooled seats up front. A big shout out goes to the digital rear view mirror. I thought it was ridiculous until I saw how good the view was. And then there's the double 12.3-inch displays. Music follows us everywhere, and the wireless Apple CarPlay worked well. Well, most of the time. See, calls sometimes dropped out. And while we're talking media things, I have to say that Kia's infotainment system really takes a while to get used to. The busyness of the screen menus is both uninviting and confusing at first. Now, Kia, if you're wondering what needs fixing, this. The upholstery is synthetic leather, but it feels good and it wipes clean, luckily. And there's a remote parking feature which got us in and out of some tight spots occasionally. But you know what you don't get? You don't get a spare wheel. Instead, there's a puncture repair kit, which I don't like because they don't always work. Unlike a spare tyre or a space saver spare, which you get on every other Carnival except the Hybrid. People mover rivals to the Carnival include the Hyundai Staria and the Volkswagen Multivan.
Let's talk practicality, because let's face it, if you're looking at buying a Kia Carnival, that's what you're after. And let me also tell you that after 15 years of driving pretty much every SUV on the market, they don't get more practical or spacious than this Kia Carnival.
Yes, these power sliding doors have been one of the most helpful parts of the Carnival. Not only do you not have to yank them open, but the enormous aperture they have made it easy to get our 2-year-old in and out of her car seat in tight car parks. And entry to the back row is really good. That back row is better for space than pretty much any of the third rows I've ever seen in an SUV. I'm 189 centimetres tall, and even though I wouldn't want to be back there for very long, for kids, it's just fine. Back there, you've also got cup holders and little buckets for all the shells and flowers and food you'll spend the next 15 years cleaning out. Oh, and there's USB ports here too. We only have 2 kids, so the second row was where they were. There's gallons of space though and a flat floor. The middle section of the row folds down and you get a tray in the back of it along with some cup holders. And these doors have got big bottle holders as well, or nappy holders. All Kia Carnivals are 8-seaters, by the way.
Okay, there's another thing I have to show you. It's the boot. It's enormous. Now, because we've only got 2 kids, we rarely ever use the third row, but we still left the seats up, and that's because the boot behind the third row is still enormous. It looks like you can fit another Kia Carnival in there, and I like that it's so deep as well. We went to the nursery and we bought some tall plants, and they fit in perfectly. So yes, massive boot. Do you want to go for a drive? Let's go for a drive. All right, let's go for a drive. Now, I've got to say, over the last 4 months, this cabin has become so familiar to me. In fact, if you were to draw a pie chart of where I've spent my time, it would probably be 50% at home, and the other 50% would be in the Kia Carnival, doing the school runs and the pickups and the grocery shopping and the commutes and the weekends away and the swimming lessons and the kung fu and everything else that parents use their cars for. And I have to say, it's just lucky that it's good to drive. But more on that later. Let's talk about the engine, because that's what the big news is here. The Kia Carnival is finally offered with a hybrid system. So it's got a petrol engine. It's a 1.6 litre turbo-petrol 4-cylinder engine, and it also has an electric motor. And they work together to produce more than enough grunt to give you good acceleration, let you move quickly if you need to. I've never once felt that it's underpowered. It has a 6-speed automatic transmission. It's got a rotary dial down here on the center console, which works quite well most of the time. And it's got paddle shifters up here as well on the steering wheel, which are great for shifting up and down whenever you want. Now, in terms of hybrids, the Kia Carnival Hybrid is not a plug-in hybrid. No, it charges its battery automatically as you drive, which is fantastic. That means you don't need to go to charging stations, just petrol stations. So let's talk about fuel economy, because in the past, you've only been able to get the Kia Carnival as a V6 petrol, which was incredibly thirsty, or as a diesel. Now, the diesel was quite fuel efficient, but it was a diesel, which meant it's noisy, it's loud, it's a bit rough. And now finally this is here. It's quiet and it's fuel efficient. Now, we haven't been able to get the type of fuel efficiency that Kia says you might be able to get. Ours has been between 8.4 and 8.9 litres per 100, but that's because my driving's kind of frantic in terms of we're always late, we've got things to do, we're in a rush, and it's a lot of city stuff as well, not a lot of motorways. But I have no doubt in my mind that if you were more conservative with your driving, you probably would be able to get close to the figure that Kia claims you should get. Now, the Carnival Hybrid has a 72-litre petrol tank, and the type of fuel it takes is 91 RON, so that's the cheap petrol, which is really good as well. Out of that 72-litre tank, I've been able to get around about 800 kilometres. So that's each time I've gone to fill up, it's basically been able to get 800 kilometres, which as a parent with a baby, that's really, really good. The less time that you spend at petrol stations with a baby, the better. Parents know that you've got to get the baby out with you. So 800 k's between fills is really good. Now let's talk about the actual driving, because remember right at the start, I said that the Kia Carnival actually drives better than many SUVs. Well, I stand by that as well, and there's a couple of reasons for that. The first reason why it's better to drive than many SUVs is because it's lower to the ground than an SUV, and that gives it more stability, going around corners, going over bumps, that type of thing. Another reason why it's better to drive than most SUVs is its wheelbase. Now, it's got a really long wheelbase, almost limousine long. And the longer a car's wheelbase, the more comfortable its ride. That's why limousines are so long. It's not just about space, it's actually about ride comfort. There are other reasons why the Kia Carnival is really good to drive too. The steering is almost perfect. It's light, it feels good, it's accurate. The visibility as well is also really, really outstanding. These gigantic windows, they're like shop windows. They're so easy to see out of. And it's got a digital rear view mirror as well. And the reason why that's good is because with 8 seats, you could potentially have 5 people sitting behind you and all their heads are going to be in the way. So that digital camera, which shows you the back, is just hindrance-free. It's fantastic. Obstacle-free. Actually, it's one of the easiest cars I've ever driven. Although, there's a catch. It's long. This people mover is almost 5.2 meters long. That's enormous. So that means when you park it, you need a space that's big, very big, and trying to get that in the city can be difficult. So yeah, look, great to drive, but when you get to your destination, you are going to be searching for a spot that you'll be able to fit into. There are a couple of other downsides apart from its length though. The hybrid system, for starters, seems to get caught out occasionally. So if I cruise into, say, an intersection and then suddenly accelerate again, like for example, waiting to turn and then you pull in and then you accelerate to turn right or wherever you're going to go, the hybrid system gets caught out and there's a momentary lag in your power. And that's a little bit disconcerting, but it's momentary, and then it works out what you want to do, and then the power arrives and everything's fine. But that's just one of the things I've noticed about it. And there's another thing as well. It's the safety system. So it has a speed warning. And when I say speed warning, when you go 1 or 2 kilometers over the speed limit, you get an alarm going off. It's a dinging, it goes ding, 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 ding. And the only way to turn it off is to pull over and go through probably 3 levels of a menu, turn it off, and so it doesn't keep going off. You have to do that every single time you switch the car on again. So that's really, really frustrating. What you end up doing is you end up ignoring it, and that's not safe either. So let's talk about safety. Right, so not all the safety tech is annoying. In fact, all the safety tech is really, really good. There's AEB, there's rear cross traffic alert with braking, and that works when you're parking as well. That's helped me, saved me quite a few number of times. There's lane keeping assistance, there's blind spot warning, there's safe exit assist, which lets you know if a car's coming before you open your door, it lets you know. And there's 5 ISOFIX points and 5 top tether anchor points for child seats. Oh, and one of the most important things absolutely is the fact that it has airbags which go all the way to cover the heads of the 3rd row passengers as well. Not all 3-row SUVs and people movers have that, so the Kia Carnival does. That's outstanding. Okay, so while we're stopped here at the traffic lights, let me tell you about ownership. The Kia Carnival is covered by Kia's 7-year unlimited kilometre warranty, which is outstanding. There's also 7 years cap price servicing. Now, take a look at the individual prices for each service price. You'll find that they are pretty high, so it's great that there's cap price servicing for 7 years, but those prices are a little bit on the pricey side. After 4 months and more than 3,000 kilometres with the Kia Carnival Hybrid, our long-term test is over. Now that it's a hybrid, its fuel economy is better than ever, but it's outstanding to drive, it's outstanding for space and practicality, and it's outstanding for safety. It's outstanding. And you know what? The fact that it's not an SUV, I think that's a good thing. Everyone's got an SUV, but they don't have one of these.